Hello there, welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. So before we get started with tonight's story, don't forget to get yourself that lovely, sparkling, effervescent drink, because I've got a sparkling story for you tonight. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and let's get started with tonight's story. Dear Sarah, and all your lovely listeners, my relationship with Nicholas had been a whirlwind romance. The moment we met, we connected like a key fitting in the right lock, or like two random items of clothing coming together to make the perfect match. Relationships can be onerous at the very best of times. Over the years, I've been infeliciously unlucky in love, so I'd reached a resigned apathy in my life, when I comprehended my fishing line was just attracting a bunch of piranhas disguised as golden carp. So lothly I retracted circumspectly from the dating scene, not unscathed or unprofaned from a battery of disastrous dates that had drained my hope like the water plundering a sinkhole. I had thought, with the advantages of social media, that those gleaming, glossy online dating sites, sparkling with so much aspirational promise and potential, that dating would be a doddle, a quintessential seamless way to meet an anonymous stranger who ticked all the right boxes for me. I was to find that some of the incognito men I met looked very different to their beguiling photographic images that they had impetuously presented as their online profile. One man's profile rather reminded me of Brad Pitt. I think on reflection he must have superimposed his own face on Brad Pitt's image, but when I hooked up with him, he was bald, fat, smelly, and unkept. In truth, he looked rather like a vagrant that slept on a street corner. I had agreed to meet up with him at a posh restaurant. More fool me. Then this unremarkable man approaches me, claiming to be my date. He gives me a big toothless grin, apologising profusely for leaving his false teeth behind at home. I nearly had a heart attack. It was an oversight, he explains to me. I was soaking my teeth in some tablets. I wanted my teeth to gleam for our date tonight, and I forgot them behind. Never mind, I can stick to mashed potato and mince for dinner. I stared at him, my mouth hanging open like a goldfish. I said, "Sorry, I can't do this." I turned around and ran away as fast as a March hare, leaving him standing there with a bemused, bewildered expression upon his face. But if he was masquerading online as Brad Pitt, well, a look-alike at least, then surely he was asking for trouble. Professedly, after several dates, I soon realised that the men that I was dating were nothing like they claimed to be online. All those glossy, attractive images had been so fleecing, or shall we say deceptively alluring. One man professed to be a gastronomic chef at an affluent, ostentatious hotel, but he was anything but. In truth, he was helping cook for some old-age pensioners, and the illustrious hotel in question he worked at was in fact his mother's retirement home, and the food he was offering these old people was basic and uninspiring, like scrambled eggs on toast. So a flamboyant, aspiring Jamie Oliver-like chef, he certainly was not. So with my fingers burnt from some rather bad experiences that I cared not to repeat, I abandoned the dating scene forthwith. It would appear that the candy-coated men I had dated underneath it all were nothing more than sourballs pretending to be sweet, which was, let's just say, a rather bitter pill to have to swallow. To all intents and purposes, the biggest irony is when you're not looking for that perfect stranger to arrive in your life fortuitously, then he does so serendipitously, when you least expect it, in the most unlikely of places, when finding your dream date is quite literally the furthest thought from your mind. Well, that is what happened to me. I met Nicholas in a supermarket queue of all places. I know it sounds ridiculously unromantic, rather absurd, and really rather beige in its measure of flamboyance, and of course the most improbable of places to meet your match, but I most certainly did. Call it being at the right place at the right time, if you like. Is that coincidence? Unlikely, I think. A perfectly mapped-out, orchestrated divine plan? More than a little likely. Nicholas was standing ahead of me in the line in the supermarket queue. a handsome 6-foot-tall lanky man with golden skin, suggesting that he'd spent some quality time in the sun. I noticed he had a masculine jawline, blonde ruffled hair that naturally fell around his face in a rather intriguing set of locks that made him look almost angelic or cherub-like, if you like. I watched this arresting stranger in my peripheral vision, naturally assuming someone as good-looking as him was definitely married, which in my experience was more than likely the case. He was standing there wearing a pale green polo shirt, scanning his flatmate's shopping list, which looked like some scrawly, bad writing on a bedraggled piece of paper, to check that he had indeed bought all the groceries that he had been requested to buy. I heard him say under his breath, "Damn, I've forgotten the peanut butter." He turned around, looking directly at me, his blue eyes meeting mine, twinkling with mischief. "I've forgotten the peanut butter," he told me. "My life won't be worth living if I return home minus the peanut butter. Do you mind dreadfully keeping my spot in the queue for me, watching over my trolley? I'll be most obliged if you would. I won't be a moment." "Go ahead," I said, smiling at him warmly. "Don't worry, I'll guard your trolley with my life." Nicholas cast me a grateful grin that was so congenial I almost blushed under its warmth. I watched him dash off down the different relevant aisles to search for the peanut butter. There was a woman ahead of Nicholas's trolley in the line who was paying for her goodies assiduously, going through dozens and dozens of coupons in her purse, successfully succeeding in holding up everyone in the queue, as there was a plethora of people lining up behind me, as the supermarket seemed to be running low on staff, so some aggrieved people were exceedingly agitated. "Those goddamned coupons," came a man's indignant voice. "At this rate we'll be here all bloody day." I could hear a woman scoff. "Not all of us are made of money, you know. Some of us have to rely on coupons, so stop being such an ass, will you?" I could feel the tension rising in the queue, but smiled when Nicholas cordially returned with a big bottle of peanut butter in his hands. "Thank God I got it," he said. "Thanks for watching my trolley." "I see the line hasn't made much progress yet. It seems to have reached a gridlock. It's as bad as the traffic out there." "Coupons," I whispered. He nodded as if he understood. "So who is the lover of peanut butter?" I asked, making polite, friendly conversation. "Your wife?" "No, I'm not married. My flatmate. We share a vintage home in Laurelhurst together. It's one of his dad's many rental properties. It's gorgeous. He just lives, breathes, and drinks peanut butter. He even eats it straight off a spoon. He's forever using it to make peanut butter cookies. But do you know, I loathe peanut butter. Is there something wrong with me? Everyone I know loves peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but not me." "No, there isn't anything wrong with you," I reassure him. "I can't stand the stuff either." "Oh, finally I meet a girl after my own heart that doesn't like peanut butter. I think we're a rare, exclusive breed. It sounds like we have lots in common. What else don't you like?" "What I don't like? Crowded supermarkets, long queues," I say, rolling my eyes as if to refer to the queue we're stuck in. "Let's see," I continue. "Traffic jams, driving in treacherous weather conditions, lightning, blaring music, loud noises, extremes in temperature, ice-cold baths, being stuck at the boutique all day, dealing with tumultuous, difficult, demanding customers. Oh, I hate demanding customers. Oh, and bland food. I loathe bland food." "And what do you like?" he asks, his smile growing broader by the minute, his cornflower blue eyes fixed on me intently. I notice his eyes fleetingly glance over my ring finger to surreptitiously check if I'm actually married. I can feel the heated chemistry rising between us. He's interested in me. I'm sure of it. I draw in a deep breath, my heart fluttering excitedly in my chest. I also think I'm warming to him. I love Italian and Chinese food. I love white wine, hot bubble baths, beautiful smells, holidays to sunny tropical locations where there's blue ocean and soft sea sand, golden sea sand. He laughs. "Well, how about I take you out to an Italian restaurant one evening? I know a fabulous place that does the best pasta and pizzas in town, and it's homemade. I'm not being presumptuous, am I? There's no boyfriend hiding in the wings, is there?" "You're on," I said. "I'd like that very much indeed." "No, there isn't a boyfriend." I give him my cell phone number. And so began a wonderful relationship. On the face of it, from our first dinner date at the Italian restaurant, we almost certainly knew that there was something extraordinarily special between us. You get an inkling about these things, as the conversation flowed as smoothly as the wine, and there wasn't any awkward silences. Within 6 months, Nicholas had asked me to marry him. It would seem his experience with online dating sites had been equally as discouraging as mine had been. Evidently, he had long since abandoned that avenue of dating. "Maybe it works for some people," he had said reflectively. "But I'm sorry, staring at a photograph online, even if it is genuine, doesn't give you a full impression of the person's character or energy. A photograph can be exceedingly misleading from every perspective. Do you know my Aunt Janine puts a picture on her Facebook profile that is 20 years out of date? She looks so good in that picture, 50 pounds lighter. I mean, who does that?" "A lot of people," I say. "We all like to put our best foot forward in life, don't we? So a few filters in a photograph never harmed anyone, did it?" "Yes, but wouldn't it be better if when you met your date, they were pleasantly surprised to observe that you were much more attractive than his or her online profile, instead of a bitter anticlimax? It's better to be honest from the start, as then people you meet are going to be genuinely interested in you, trusting your integrity. You didn't pretend to be something you weren't. Besides, confidence is exceedingly attractive. If you're going to deceive someone about what you look like, then what else are you going to lie about?" "Good point," I said. Nicholas had placed a stunning diamond ring on my finger 2 days after he spontaneously proposed to me. It had never been planned. He had no idea he was going to pop the question. It just happened. We were eating pizza, watching TV together, and he impetuously just says, "Marry me," just like that. Even I was rather surprised. Some people might think that that was terribly unromantic, but it came so fervently from his heart, as if in that moment in time he had unambivalently decided he didn't want to live without me. Of course I said yes, for there was a genuine friendship between us beyond just a physical chemistry. My father always used to tell me that you need to marry your very best friend, as sustaining an imperishable fruitful marriage is based on an enduring perennial friendship. Of course I know he's right, as he and my mother represent the perfect example to me. They've been habitually together since they were 20. They simply adore each other, like two happy sailing boats with large white sails flapping in the wind, riding the ocean waves together, side by side, lapping up the sunshine with a tangible ebullience. The secret is, of course, the fixative or the binding cement that holds each brick of their relationship together, rather like a house that cannot fall down, as the steadfast time-honoured foundations and loyalty are so solidly secure. Why? Because of their abiding friendship, of course. It's on this beautiful, unassuming day, with a cloudless blue sky, with not a single fluffy cloud in sight, a day filled with a crisp, fragrant fresh air upon which you can taste its saltiness on your tongue. You can smell the delightful whiff of the ocean. It reminds me of wistful, nostalgic memories of former family beach holidays, spent eating waffles dribbled with a plethora of maple syrup, served with clouds of frothy ice cream from the Dairy Queen, picnics on the beach, cool, invigorating dips in the ocean, sand castles built with miniature little buckets and spades. I discern there's a revitalizing cool breeze blowing in the air. I glance out of Nicholas's car window, which is rolled right down, so I can fully appreciate the wind nudging my skin like a loving mother's touch. The perfect white stretches of beach sand, along with the aquamarine blue ocean, is sprawled immeasurably before us like an interminable, ceaseless line of blue and gold across the peninsula. The wind is whipping up the ocean waves in a frenzy like a rotary beater. Some waves are crashing rambunctiously against the sculptural rocks that emerge through this wall of water like large humpback whales. The waves lavishly anoint these smooth, rising sculptural appendages with much pomp and ceremony, with bountiful surges of white foaming spray that reminds me of the froth in the early stages of making meringues. The undulating ocean waves bound towards the sea sand with a fervent enthusiasm. They ride backwards and forwards to the ocean again. I'm lost in the awe of this perpetual backwards and forwards rhythm. For a brief moment, I momentarily forget that Nicholas is going to be introducing me to his mother. I will not lie. I am rather nervous about meeting a mother-in-law that Nicholas has barely ever mentioned in the 6 months I've known him. I get the distinct impression that he wishes not to discuss her with me, for whenever I address the subject and ask him about his mother, he shuts me down. But now, in any given moment, I will meet this mysterious woman that until now has remained enigmatically cloaked in the shadows. We are going to spend 6 weeks at the Oregon coast, and it's at her property. I was excited about this prospect. I was to learn his mother had a fabulous, stylish house close to the beach. There was a separate cottage which she normally let out during the summer months to holiday makers, but it was available for me and Nicholas to use. Whenever I've asked Nicholas about his mother, as I was saying, he's never been forthcoming. But it's moments before we're about to meet her, travelling on the coastal road, that he finally pulls over his car to a sandy clearing or viewing location that overlooks a sandy beach and blue ocean. I have a confession to make, Bea, concerning my mother, he says. His unexpected words grab my attention with a rising sense of unease. What is Nicholas talking about? Should I be worried? I can see he's looking exceedingly uncomfortable as he shifts awkwardly in the seat, as if what he's about to tell me is not going to roll off his tongue fluidly, as reluctance and discomfort have bridled the smooth flow of his words. She's not dying of cancer or something like that, I asked suddenly. No, nothing like that. Well then what, for goodness sake, tell me? Why all this clandestine secrecy? It's just, I didn't want you to get heated under the collar or panicking before we came out here. There's no easy way to say this, Bea, but my mother is an acquired taste, a very difficult woman. No one is ever good enough for her son. She's very protective and possessive over me. In truth, over the years, she's scared most of my girlfriends away. She can be very blunt, offensive and brusque. I hate to say this, but she rarely wants me to herself. So I think when we tell her we are getting married, she is unlikely to take it very well. Now, I don't want that to upset or unsettle you in any way. That's just the way she is. But don't let her intimidate you. You're kidding me, I say, gasping. Why the hell didn't you tell me this before? You're saying your mother is unlikely to even warm to me. She's unlikely to like me even. That's exactly what I'm saying. But I don't understand. You live 3 hours' drive away from her in Portland. She lives a long way away from you here in the coast. Can she possibly be possessive over you with that distance between you? I mean, it's not like she actually sees you every day, when Portland is 3 hours away from here. Nicholas looks uncomfortable. I video chat with her every day. My mother's chauffeur drives her up to Portland regularly to see me. But you never told me this. Nicholas shrugs his shoulders. I didn't want my mother to put you off me. We may choose our friends, but we can't always choose our parents. And your dad? Where's your dad? My dad divorced my mother when I was 2 years old. I've not heard a dicky bird from him since. My mother thinks he's living in Florida with a new family. And he doesn't even want to know you? Something like that, says Nicholas, although you can never be sure with my mother. But you could have half-brothers and sisters. My mother says he doesn't want to know about me. And you believe her? How do you know that she's not stopping you from seeing your dad on purpose, if she's the jealous type? I mean, she could be lying to you. Nicholas looks at me. A light goes on in his eyes. You know, I never thought of that before. You could be right. I wouldn't put anything past my mother. Now, are you ready? Brace yourself for impact, because when I turn down the next road, we'll be minutes away from meeting my mother. Must you do this? I'm now feeling terribly nervous. Do I even look all right?
"Look all right," said Nicholas. "You look beautiful, Bear. Of course you look all right."
I can now feel the tension rising up in my body as I tighten my posture in the car seat, clenching my fist tightly in anticipation for meeting his mother. I wish I wasn't wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I look far too casual. Eventually, Nicholas's car rolls down a driveway. I can see a white, very modern square building, like an architect's cutting-edge design, that is a little cold with its sharp angles, but it has floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooking the beach. There's a long line of designer steps that lead to the beach, and then further away along the same vertical ridge is a smaller, similar-looking modern building, which I imagine must be the cottage where me and Nicholas will be staying. But a cottage it certainly is not, for character and whimsical charm do not seep from its pores, as it looks cold, clinical, and almost calculating in my eyes, as if the place is heartless and has no soul. I know for many this ostentatious, streamlined piece of modern ingenuity would be a stunning piece of minimalistic architecture, embracing glass, steel and reinforced concrete, with horizontal and vertical lines based on abstract influences and designs. But for me it is sterile, cold, beige. It makes me think of offices. I love flowing, curvaceous lines, houses that speak of being lived in with oodles of personality, warmth, charm and character. I wonder, is this hostile building that overlooks a magnificent beach a reflection of my mother-in-law's cold personality? I have an inkling and sneaking suspicion that this might well be the case. In a trice our car rolls over the smooth driveway. I can see the front door open. A woman is standing there. I can see she's elegantly attired in a pair of white cotton pants, elegant sandals, and a soft pink, rather glitzy top. I notice her short golden blonde hair frames her face in a very expensive swanky cut. In my opinion, she rather reminds me of a mature version of Shirley MacLaine, as the likeness is rather uncanny. The two of them could be sisters, or as good as. Nicholas climbs out of the car, opening my door, and I climb out. He takes my hand in his, and under his breath he says, "I keep telling you, don't let her intimidate you. I'm on your side, babe. Don't forget that." As we approach his mother, she's standing in the doorway. His mother scans me, her eyes hovering over my sandals to my shorts and t-shirt. I can see she's looking at me disapprovingly, as if she's already decided that I'm not good enough for her son. She doesn't acknowledge me, but effusively turns her devoted attention to Nicholas. "Oh, sweetheart, it's so wonderful to see you," she says, wrapping her arms around Nicholas. "Oh, my word, it feels like it's been ages since you've been back to the beach house. Let's have a look at you, dear. Have you been eating enough? I think you look a little bit thin, Nicholas." He rolls his eyes. "Mum, I'm absolutely fine." Finally, his mother's eyes land on me. "Well, are you not going to introduce me to this lovely young lady on your arm?" "This is Bea, Mum. Bea Cavendish." "Bea? What an extraordinary name. Rather peculiar. Sounds like something you'd call your dog. It's very nice to meet you, Bea," she says in a brusque, dismissive, condescending tone of voice that almost sounds offensive. She masterfully fails to conceal the distinct chill in her voice. I can see her blue eyes are not desperately thrilled to see Nicholas holding my hand in his. Her gaze lingers over our joined hands, for a little too long, I suspect. "Well, don't just stand there," she chides. "For goodness sake, come in." We follow Nicholas's mother into a passageway that opens out into a vast open-plan room with very high ceilings, modern-style opulent chandeliers, and a contemporary staircase that looks like an abstract piece of art. If I was to describe the room, it's rather like a seamless glass translucent box, with transfixing views over the ocean, almost as if the ocean has been invited into the room. It's obviously the architect's intention to do so, to bring the outside in, and it works. Suffice to say, without the ocean views to soften the interiors, this contemporary home would be far too cold for my liking. And so much white, well, it's not very exciting for me. At least some expensive contemporary artwork lends some colour to the room. All the modern-style furnishings have cutting-edge lines, including leather sofas and chairs adorned with big white fluffy cushions.
and there are some modern, creamy textured rugs strewn across the marbled floors. It's almost as if a top designer has kitted out this place like a very opulent hotel lobby. "Please sit down," said Nicholas's mother, gesturing for me to take a seat on a large white leather couch opposite a glass table with a stunning single white orchid perched in its centre. "I won't be a tick, dear," she says, moving to the far end of the room, which is embraced by a state-of-the-art modern kitchen with very expensive slimline fittings and white quartz countertops. I hear Nicholas's mother clattering away loudly in the kitchen. She brings out a silver tea tray to the table, lined with old-fashioned Royal Doulton flowery teacups, which seem almost incongruous in this modern setting. I was half expecting all her china to be white. "Oh, by the way, Bea," says Nicholas's mother, "I didn't introduce myself to you properly. I must apologise. My name is Meryl. Please call me Meryl, dear. Now tell me, how do you take your tea?" "White with 2 sugars, please." Meryl hands me a cup, and then she pours some tea for her son, offering us a platter of mixed pastries. I opt for a custard pastry, and as I take a bite, some of the crumbs roll onto my lap, and then onto the marble floor, and Meryl gives me a scathing, disapproving look through her blue eyes. "Mother," says Nicholas, holding my hand in his, "I've got something very exciting to tell you. Actually, we've both got something very exciting to tell you. I've asked Bea to be my wife. Isn't that wonderful?" His mother almost chokes on her tea. "You're getting married?" "That's right," said Nicholas. "I couldn't be happier, Mum. Bea makes me terribly happy." Meryl looks at me. I can see the horror developing in her eyes that she's willfully trying to hide, but it's too late. I've seen it. "You're not pregnant, dear, are you?" She looks at me suspiciously. "I mean, these days, there are ways and means of dealing with unwanted pregnancies, you know. You don't have to get married." "Bea's not pregnant, Mum. We're getting married because we love each other. That's why we're getting married. It's not complicated." "Love, Nicholas? What do you know about love, dear? You're still very young." "How long have you known my son, Bea?" she asks me. I feel almost as if I'm under cross-examination by her formidable tone of voice. "About 6 months, I say." Meryl quickly puts down her cup of tea, and with a measured look of bewilderment on her face, she says, "You've only known each other for 6 months! Goodness gracious! And you're getting married? Oh, son, you should know that's ridiculous. You barely know each other. You should give your relationship much more time before you rush into things like marriage. 6 months? That's an absolute joke. Do you know I knew your father, Nicholas, for 5 years before we tied the knot and got married, and we still got divorced. We didn't manage to make our relationship work. Relationships aren't easy, dear. They take lots and lots of work. You can't just rush into things willy-nilly. You're almost certainly asking for trouble." "Sometimes, Mum, you know when you've met the right person," he said, squeezing my hands lovingly. Once again, Meryl's eyes are studying our hands locked in each other's. She's grimacing, and if I didn't know any better, I'd say she looked like she wanted to be violently sick. Somehow she maintains her demeanour, but I notice the teacup in her hand is taking strain as it rattles precariously. "So may I ask you, Bea, where did you meet?" "In a supermarket," I said. Meryl looks absolutely appalled. "A supermarket?" she says, raising a brow. "Oh, my word! How quaint! Did you meet over the black olives or something?" "So tell me about yourself, Bea. Do you have any university degrees behind you?" "No," I say, flushing. "I never went to university. I'm not the academic type. I work in a fashion boutique in Portland." "So you're a shop girl," says Meryl, looking increasingly appalled. "What about your parents? What do they do?" "They're university professors in Portland." Meryl looks nonplussed. "Your parents are university professors who have a daughter who never went to university. Did the brains bypass one generation, I wonder?" "Mum, that's enough. Stop being so rude." No, it's all right. Your mum's right. I'm not the brainy one. I don't mind admitting it. But if it helps, I do have 2 brothers that are both boffins. They're both at university. Oh, dear, says Merrill. What a pity you missed out on some of those invaluable genes. You can't put a price on intelligence, you know. It seems like you had a raw deal genetically, Bea. Dreadful pity, if you ask me. Mum, Bea is very bright. Just because she didn't go to university doesn't mean she's stupid. In my opinion, she has a worldly wisdom, so often lacking in university students. Or an emotional intelligence, if you like, that is invaluable. She's also creative, imaginative, and an excellent cook. Oh, son, you do half spout some nonsense at times. Emotional intelligence is far too overrated. Honestly, what are you like? And being creative, oh, that's ridiculous. These days our lives aren't designed for home cooking. All I have to do is to pop over the road and pick up some homemade food from the delicatessens or bakers, and I'm good to go. Even restaurants these days will give you the meals you need. So the days of needing to be a good cook are long since behind us, and it's rather like buying clothes. I mean, these days no one darns socks, do they? They don't knit jerseys or sew their own clothes anymore, when there are fabulous boutiques out there selling designer creations off the hanger. She pauses for a moment and regards my clothes scathingly again. Do you always dress like that, Bea? For someone who works in a boutique, you're exceedingly casual, while your T-shirt looks like the cat's been sleeping on it. I feel as if I want the ground to swallow me whole. I'm dressed for the beach, I say. Yes, dear, but even a trip to the beach should be a stylish affair for a young woman. I mean, for goodness sake, I can see I'm going to have to take you under my wing. No daughter-in-law of mine should be wearing a T-shirt that's only good enough for cleaning the windows. Mum, why do you always have to put my girlfriends down like this? Bea looks perfectly nice. There's nothing wrong with her T-shirt. Feeling awkward, I excused myself, made my way quickly to the ladies' toilet. I could see that Merrill would not be happy until she'd pecked away at me like a parrot attacking its own plumage until it's bald. I washed my hands in that bathroom and my face, wiping the beads of perspiration away. There was no way I was going to let this woman put me down. If she wanted a fight, she was going to have one. I was not going to be intimidated by this woman. She was not going to come between me and Nicholas. As I leave the bathroom, I can hear her silky voice infuse the air. I stop and listen to the conversation. Now this is going to be interesting, I think. I know that the moment my back is turned, that Merrill is going to do all she can to turn Nicholas against me. I smile privately to myself, as there's one thing I know about Nicholas, and that is he's resolutely stubborn, very, very loyal and dependable, and completely committed to our relationship. Still, I know his mother Merrill will stop at nothing to try and tear us apart. It seems I'm not wrong in my assumptions. Dear, what on earth are you thinking? You're far too good for this girl. Ha! And the name Bea! I mean, have you ever? Anyone can see you're infinitely superior to her, dear. She possibly comes from a very middle-class background. I mean, she has 2 parents who are boring university professors. Now, I ask you, sweetheart, I mean, how monochromatically dull can you get? I'm quite certain when I meet them we'll have nothing in common. I mean, what does a socialite like me have in common with a university professor? Mum, you are very contrary. Only a moment ago you were saying it was a pity that Bea had not inherited their genes. Oh, son, the girl is a complete dropout. She didn't even go to university. At the very least, I would have expected you to end up with someone who had a degree of some kind, like an aspiring doctor. Oh, Mum, you're being ridiculous. You and I well know that if I was going to marry a doctor, you would be telling me that I should be finding a girl who would stay at home to look after my kids. It doesn't matter who the girl is that I bring home, Mum. She'll never be good enough for you. You know that's true. No one will ever be good enough for your boy. Nicholas, you know as your mother I only have your best interests at heart, and I always have. That's what mothers do. They look out for their children. But a shop girl, now I ask you, son. I mean, couldn't you do better than that for yourself? It's equivalent of a daughter of mine marrying the dustbin man. I mean, how humiliating is that? I mean, how can I hold up my head high at any social engagement? What does your daughter-in-law do for a living, Merrill?
Oh, my daughter-in-law is a shop girl. Mum, you are being mean, and you know you are, and that's not a very nice thing to say. And you know that Bayer is not just a shop girl. No, it isn't a nice thing to say, I say, walking into the room. I'm sorry, Merrill, but since I've come into your house, you've done nothing but undermine me. And you and I know what this is about. You don't want me and Nicholas to get hitched or to get married. But there is not a jot you can do about it, because we love each other, and I'll be damned if you try to come between us. Oh dear, Bayer. I had no intention of being so rude. I think we got off on a rather bad start, did we not? I want to assure you, young lady, that if you make my son happy, then of course I'm delighted to welcome you into our family. Of course I am. But I'm not easily fleeced, as I can discern a very uneasy tone to her voice. And I know that underneath it all, this insidious woman will stop at nothing to ruin our relationship. So there we are. That is part 1. Tomorrow we will be on to part 2, because this is a very long story. So until next time, goodbye and good night.